Hi ho, it's off to work I go. We had a bit of an emergency this weekend, and I have to pop into work to see if there's anything I can do about it.
Buckle up your seat as I give you a day in the life of facilities maintenance.
Okay, why don't we start by taking a look and evaluating what we got. It's Sunday, almost noon right now, and yesterday in the evening I got a call from Frank, our operations director, to say that a pipe burst and he had done an emergency repair at the school here. I always refer to the CPVC piping being the horrible stuff, but there's actually one worse. So bad that it's been outlawed, and that is poly B. Okay, so I don't know who called it in or how it was discovered, but you see where these hose clamps are here? Apparently this pipe split and was spraying water all over the place. And we had a similar situation a couple of years ago where I had to do a repair. And that was on this one right here. And I used a slip joint here. The reason these slip joints are very useful is because they can connect to essentially all types of piping. And when you're needing to transition from one type of pipe to a different type of pipe, that's very helpful. But man, oh man, if you look at this jambalaya of things going on here, it's fascinating. You've got this manifold here, and you've got all these shutoffs. You had this poly B piping, and that's this gray stuff down here, and here, and here. And on this side, here, the one that failed, and there. And that poly B went up to copper. And it was transitioned with these plastic compression fittings. And over the years, this one is pre-Arne, this one is pre-Arne, so it has to be at least 6 or more years ago. They've had to do other repairs because you can see where it goes copper, PEX, poly B. And this one here looks like copper CPVC poly B. I have no idea why there's a bungee cord in here. Oh, that's that. Okay, obviously the split is on the back side, and Frank has used this bungee cord, this rubber bungee cord. This is what is creating our seal on the back side of there. Okay, that's kind of ingenious, actually. But look at this. This is just another leak waiting to happen. So where I'm sitting right now is in the weight room just off the high school gym. And a little bit of history here. This wooden floor was put in brand new, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And it wasn't too long before they had a flood right here. And this damaged a whole bunch of the flooring. And so a bunch of the flooring had to be redone on this side of the gym because of this pipe burst and flood. Fast forward a couple of years, I've started working here now, and we've got a reported leak in the wall, and I trace it back to this point down here where I did the repair a few years ago. So dodged a bullet there. It didn't turn into such a bad flood that we ended up we did damage and ended up having to replace more flooring. Here we are again. This is, another one has burst, and again, dodged a bullet. Frank was able to get to it before it actually flooded the gym and damaged the flooring that had already been replaced. At some point in time, we are going to have to deal with this. So the deal with poly B piping, and it is completely outlawed now. I have to say, because I do have some experience as a building inspector, that I've never seen a poly B failure on, say, well water. untreated water. It holds up, it doesn't deteriorate in the same way as poly B that is exposed to chemicals in the water like chlorine, which you get in city water applications. That's what we have here. Poly B has been attributed to so many leaks that there were class action lawsuits and they quit using it in the 90s. The date on our school is 1995. All of this would have been constructed in like 1994. Poly B was taken off the market and they stopped using it in this part of the world within the next 2 or 3 years. So we caught the tail end of when they were still using poly B piping, and yeah, we're paying the price for that. Ideally, all of this poly B piping that is running down through the floor should be replaced. This is not a job that a facilities maintenance person would ever take on. This is a major plumbing upgrade. What a facilities maintenance person like me does is come along and make some repairs here. So I'm going to attempt to, I'll remove this piece of ABS right here. I will cut this down even shorter to give me more to work with, clean up this pipe and see if I can find a good point to tie into it. I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did here. This is hot, so I shouldn't have to shut off the water to the entire school. I should be able to just shut off the hot water side, and I think this is a recirculation line. So I'll shut off the circ pump, and man, when I cut that, see, that's the thing that's hard to do. I might have to cut it and cap it. So I can cut that, cap it. That gives me the time to make the repair that I need to do here, and then uncap it and reconnect it. And possibly during that time, it might be spewing water all over the place because there could be water in the lines. I'm at the lowest point in the building, and there are 2 floors above my head that are full of piping that this connects to. So any water in those lines, even after I've shut the water off, has got to go somewhere. And as soon as I open this line up, gravity pressure is going to want to push it out right here. But a little bit of water in this room is better than a lot of water in that room out there, which is the gym. So let's start by shutting things down. I'll start with this valve here. Now I'm going to head upstairs and shut off the water in and out of the hot water tanks and the circ pump. Now, if this was a cold water side, I would have to be shutting off everything. So that's a circulation pump. That is off. And that is the hot water outlet. Time to get some towels, I think. As I'm going through my toolbox and gathering all the tools that I need in order to do this job, I am realizing I'm missing something. I need a cap like this. This is a 1/2 inch. I was positive I had one in 1/2 inch and one in 3/4. So that would make sense, right? But I don't. So I have to go get one of these before I cut this open. Well, the closest store to the school was closed. So I'm popping into Rona to see if they have the part that I need. Well, I found a 4-pack of 1/2 inch push to connect plugs. I can't find anything in 3/4. Okay, I found it. Took me a moment though, because there's nothing attached to the front here that gives me a visual of what's actually in the back. I'm gonna grab 2 of them because while I do have a valve to work with above where I'm opening up the pipe this time, next time I might not. Hey, let me just try something here before I cut things open, and that is see if, yes, okay, so shutting off the hot water the way I did has relieved all the pressure in that line. Up here, but remember, my office is on the 2nd floor. And where I'm going to be cutting the pipe is at the lowest point in the school. Okay, other than this little collar, which is still sitting up here, I've got a lot of exposure down here now, so I want to cut it off as high as I can and then cap it right away as soon as I'm done cutting. Yeah, we got sprayage. Okay. Do I just cut it and cap it? I think so. And I am so sorry that you missed the first cut. I had visions of showing this in close-up slow motion, and my hands were soaking wet, and when I went to switch from normal view to wide-angle view, I inadvertently shut the camera off. Well, that answers the question as to whether or not there's pressure here. There is. So it is a very good thing that I went and bought those test caps before doing any of this. All things considered, that's not too terribly bad. Most of the water was contained in this immediate area and on me. I need to find a few more towels. Okay, now I'll start taking the rest of this part. Don't know how tight this is going to be. Hopefully not too tight. So essentially, this is an old compression fitting that is connecting this poly B to copper. Okay, these are coming off. That's good. So I'm cleaning up the copper pipe here, getting rid of any old oxidation and contaminants, and roughing up the surface because I'm going to solder a coupling to this point right here. Then I need to figure out my distance from here to the new fitting, and that other fitting is a slip joint. Let me show it to you. So it's designed for exactly this purpose. Actually, I could push this all the way up to here and then align it with the pipe that I want to fit on, and then push it back down the 1 1/8 that it needs to go down, and I'm left with an appropriate amount of pipe in one end and the other, meaning it's on properly and it will not leak. That's what makes it nice about this fitting, is you can push it on further than it needs to go in one direction in order to create the distance needed to slip it into place and put it down over top of the pipe you're connecting to. That's our pinhole right there. I don't know if that's focusing in the camera because I can't see what the camera's looking at right now. It's interesting because it's on the back side. If it was on the front side, it would almost make me wonder if something impacted it in a weird way. But it's not, it's on the back side. It was like this. That was the orientation. So this part here now will couple to the existing copper pipe that's there. If I knew that this slip joint could handle heat, I would just solder it as is, but I don't. And I don't want to do any damage to the O-ring or anything in here with the transmission of heat down into it. So I need to disconnect this first, then solder this piece on. I can just grab it like this, put a screwdriver in here, and twist like that, and I can slowly work it off. Reset, Twist some more. See the way that's coming off there? Okay, it's off. Now I can go ahead and solder this little piece into place. You know, you always need to use some kind of flux. In the old days, they always said don't use this with your fingers, use a brush. But it isn't the old days anymore. And they've taken all the lead out of here. So I don't think it's a problem touching this with my fingers. In fact, the fact that they've taken all the lead out of here makes it less effective. It actually worked better. The old stuff worked better. The old solder that had lead in it worked better. The old flux that had lead in it worked better. Let's see if I have enough gas left in my bottle to do this. I might have to switch bottles. Well, that should have worked. We've now reached the moment where things could either go sideways or work as intended. I need to pull this cap off. And when I do that, water's gonna erupt out of here. Then I need to pull this little clip that will be on here, used to pull this off. I have to switch it to here and then push this down over top of this. Part of the challenge with this one too is access. But I think this is about as good as it's gonna get. I'm trying to fit my body down into the corner here like this. It's not easy. Where did it go? There it is. I'm not grabbing the pipe with my wrench here. I'm just trying to use the flat side of the wrench to get a little leverage against the clip to be able to push it down. And at this point it's not yet down far enough, which is why you can see water squirting out the bottom. I can go a little further. Further. Okay. Well, remember that part a couple minutes ago when I said my solder joint didn't work? Oh shoot. My solder joint is leaking. Which means I have to take it apart and start all over again. Well, we know the drill now, don't we? Man. And I learned something else here too. And that is I should have been wearing gloves because I cut the back of my thumb here without realizing it. Second verse, same as the first. And I might as well go get some dry towels while I'm at it, eh? Well, I put some heat to the coupling and I was able to pull it off. And maybe this is an example of when a solder joint doesn't work. So you can see solder down inside there all the way. But watch as I turn this. There was the area that did not get sealed. Okay, I've got my new coupling soldered onto my new piece of 3/4 inch pipe, and I've actually taken the time this time to score, scuff, sand the inside of the fitting just to help improve the flow of any flux and solder. I've cleaned this up as well, and it is also ready to accept the new fitting. I'm going to put a generous amount of flux on it
and put my new fitting on there, and then round 2 for soldering.
Okay, I'm ready to solder, and I've improved on a couple of things. 1, I scuffed up the inside of the fittings. 2, I made sure to have a generous amount of flux on both sides, which I might have been light on the flux last time. And the third thing, which might not seem like a big deal, but it is if your back hurts and it's hard to kneel down because you've had 6 knee surgeries, I pulled a bench closer. So I'm actually able to do this from a seated position, which makes life a lot easier, and I'm not fighting against myself to actually do this.
So what I'm going to do now to solder this is I'm going to put heat on one side and just kind of keep it there. And when the solder melts on the other side, I'll know that it's hot enough to melt it, and it will also draw it all the way across to the other side. I may have spread the heat around a little bit too much last time and not actually drawn it to where it needed to go. Okay, well, I definitely have pulled the solder all the way around this time. The solder never touched this side of the fitting. Only the heat touched this side of the fitting. The solder was touched on the back side here, and you can see it's drawn it all the way around. And providing I haven't compromised the lower fitting in the process, this will now not leak. Okay, we're back up and running. I'm going to turn the hot water on a few taps just to help flush those lines, because what happens when you disturb old lines like that is you kick up rust sediment that normally sits still at the bottom of the line. Wow, do you see what I see? No leaks. This cavity is a little bit wet, needs to dry out. I'm gonna leave it open for a while. And yeah, other than letting this area dry out, I've got some laundry. I've got 7 towels here that need washing. One of them my own. And I've got some tools to clean up as well. So I hope we've all learned something here today. I know I have. If you stuck around, I appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. With this, I bid you adieu, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.